Hey, so to anyone still here, that presentation that I mentioned earlier that Johnny wanted to do, he's actually going to be doing that in this house now. So if you want to stick around for that.
Why is pointing?
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
How are you?
Good.
Can you guys hear and see me?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. I'm Johhny Dubowsky. I'm just filling a last minute slot. I didn't have a talk prepared, but I prepared one in like 20 minutes. So I'm going to start off by just playing some music since it's the end of a very, very long day. And then I'll give you guys just a short little talk. I'm just going to outline some stuff that we're working on with 1 million devs and some of the stuff I've been working on with Sense Collective, and then just talk about this social and knowledge graph idea that we've been batting around. But you guys want to hear a tune first? Would that be good?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
What you got?
This is a song called If You Want to Stay. I heard your breath came crawling on the western winds. I know the signals that you're trying to send. If I held your voice, your choice I'd be in ecstasy. I know I'd get there, and our time is at hand. If you wanna stay, we'll stay. We'll break away. We'll let down. We'll let wait. I heard your car door coming from a million miles. I know the best times that you stood in days and whiles. If I held your spirit in your precious way, I know I'd get there, and our time is ahead. If you wanna stay, we'll stay. We'll break away. We'll let down. We'll let wait. But what came first? The devil or the sound? I heard this precious ground. What came first? Thought we had it all figured out. Oh, if you want to stay, we'll stay. We'll break away. We'll let down. 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 We'll let away. What came first? All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. That was fun. Now I'm awake. Let me do
That was good.
screen share here. And how are you guys doing? Have
Pretty good.
for like 10 hours?
Yeah, I think this is the 13th hour.
Wow. Well, I won't kill you guys. I'll just do kind of a quick run of some stuff. and really, I'm doing this to kind of just sow a few seeds and get things so that as we move forward, like this day was, like, as with everything in the blockchain space, time is so compressed, like, because the markets never close, it feels like a year goes by in like a day. And this was that times 10. I feel like the learning curve on this remote conference was amazing. I mean, I was the one who fucked up the streaming last night at like 3 a.m. And I mean, there were 100 catastrophic failures, but at the same time, we like learned an amazing amount of stuff. And moving forward, like, this is how Ethereum community is really gonna emerge as a community that can kind of lead how remote work can thrive. So can you see my screen, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm Johhny Dubowsky. I am a musician, as you saw. I also started a nonprofit called Rock and Renew about 12 years ago. And I've toured the world with like a lot of huge bands like Blondie and Meatloaf and The Strokes, and like done tours for 15 years. And I got to play with a lot of really famous people. And my educational and professional life, I've been doing cybernetics and environmental management, and I'm a computer scientist. So I combined those two worlds somehow and organized about 20 artists. We started Rock and Renew in kind of a similar way as the stuff I'm not doing in the Ethereum community, to make environmental science more accessible. So we started setting up events around the world to bring science into a more accessible format. So I started working with Bill McKibben on something called Step It Up. And that Bill McKibben is the founder of 350.org, which I was a part of the group that helped to found that. We grew Step It Up from about 400 college students in the first year. Then we formalized into something called the Energy Action Coalition, which had about 3,000 college students in our second year. And they're kind of like an ETH Denver conference. Like, we organized community college environmental groups from different cities to come together to a conference. And it was actually very much like ETH Denver, like, or any of our conferences, like workshops, thought leaders, and then sort of the equivalent of a hackathon was like, let's come up with some environmental campaign ideas over a weekend. And from 4,000 people, we then formalized into 350.org. And over the next 3 years, we grew the organization to 4 million active participants and 24 million people that actually joined us on 10-10-10 in 189 countries. So it was like the single largest day of action in the whole world in history. And so I joined the 1 Million Developers Project really just because I saw that it was an opportunity to kind of do similar work, like, and in talking with some of the Ethereum community, like, how do you grow Ethereum to support 1 million developers? If Ethereum's gonna, be the replacement or certainly the Web3 is going to be based on Ethereum, we're going to need 1 million devs. So we started working at how we could do that. And I've been applying some of the lessons I've learned. So like 4 million people, 5,800 actions, 161 countries, 820 different organizations, over 3,000 companies, 7,300 websites. So these are some of the things that I've helped to like figure out how do you coordinate across all of these different groups, and it wasn't easy. And in the marketing DAO talk that Angela gave earlier today, she was describing like what's amazing is that there's like 20 organizations and groups in the Ethereum community that are addressing this goal from different perspectives. Like, how do we make Ethereum the best that it can be? How do we market it? And she talked about the CMS system, and particularly identified, like, how do we maintain the resilience of our channels so that they're immune or resistant to rage quitting and leadership changeover. You know, if you have a marketing DAO campaign running and the head of it, you know, decides to like take the money and run, like, how do we minimize the harm that any one person could do? Obviously, in a decentralized platform with smart contracts, there's a lot we can do to prevent that. You know, 10 years ago, before, you know, the Ethereum existed, we didn't have those tools. So growing 350.org from the Campus Climate Challenge, going from like 4,000 students, 18 cities, 4 million participants, to you know, to organize that many people, we had to deal with a ton of redundancy in project planning and knowledge work. And one of the most frustrating parts of my experience was that we reinvented the wheel like every single day for every campaign. I just want to check in to make sure. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep, all good.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure I wasn't talking for an hour to a dead screen. Great. So, you know, every one of these campaigns required hours of onboarding and organizing with the local representatives, and the background work, like the spreadsheets and the campaign materials, they were really susceptible to that issue that Angela identified. Like, we, you know, an example would be like on the Yale campus, we had like a Sierra Club, you know, Sierra Campus Climate Challenge Club. That was like the #1 organization in the country. They like led how you do an awesome college event, how you get scientists on board. And then all, like, for 2 years strong, they were just like hands down the best of the best. And then the next year, it like went 90% down. Like, they just stopped producing. And we realized that it was one person who was carrying that organization, and she, you know, she basically took the resources with her, not maliciously. There just wasn't the infrastructure and the tools weren't there for her to hand off all of the local contacts, all of the things that she learned. So it got me thinking at the time about, you know, mapping local knowledge. And, you know, I came up with this turn of phrase that it really is like tugboat captains. You know, you might have the most amazingly powerful, you know, battleship or you know, a crazy super yacht. And the captain could be the best sailor on the seas. But when they come into the local waterway, they get with the local tugboat captain who knows the local waters and knows the changing channels. And they do that because if they don't, they're going to end up on the rocks. And in order to grow the Ethereum ecosystem to 1 million developers, we definitely need a process of coordinating knowledge that allows really clean handoffs and that allows for us to build cumulative knowledge resources. So with Sense Collective, we've been building some of those tools. You know, we don't have a token. It's just part of the whole, you know, Gitcoin open source. You know, we're very much, I participated in the Ethereum ICO. I started mining Bitcoin in like 2013. And so it's definitely positioned in the way that's kind of, you know, compatible with where this particular community is right now. We're not raising money for something we want to build. We've been building it on the strength of grants and the open source community. And in the next, you know, I'm just going to have 5 more minutes of this talk and then I'll turn it over to conversation. But what we've really been looking to build is a series of protocols and, you know, schemas to organize our knowledge in a way that regular people can participate in. So what really was one of the most powerful things of 350 was how we organized local and global stakeholders into like a real quilt. We really had the social graph thing down without any tools. So all of our calls to action, they would make Peppo really happy. And I think Peppo is one of the ways that we can mirror this. almost all the calls to action involved a person making a video or taking photos and including themselves in it and telling their story. And then by weaving together the stories of millions of people, we had a really comprehensive, like, expressive quilt of people. But what was missing from that was like a knowledge traversal graph, a way to navigate across those people, so that when I find somebody who's solved the problem that I have in Norwalk, Connecticut, instead of reinventing the wheel and rebuilding everything that they built, how do I get to them? How do I know that they have the same answer? And so a lot of this deals in information design and the design of schemas, ontologies, and taxonomies. So something I started building for 350.org, which is now moving to like the Foam protocol and moving to Ocean protocol and Ethereum, is the takeaway that I hope everybody has from this short talk. It's a tagging API that deals with a common human readable schema. So like, this is all dealing with climate information, but you'll see very easily how it can be abstracted to anything. So if I'm organizing, if I work for the NRDC or like the river keepers, and I'm organizing my local chapter's data about our local river, if I use a shared schema for like geotagging, for enriching the content, and for pooling it into a larger pool, then it's easy for another organization, for Surfrider, to identify the data that I tagged and say, hey, that matches exactly what we're working on. And I know that because they use the same schema and tags. So, what we've ended up with is a great number of like Python plugins and libraries. It's very much compatible with the CAD ecosystem from Block Science. It's very interoperable, and we need help to get it closer to the front end side of things. But on the back end, we have all of these different libraries and ecosystems for doing semantic web mapping. And then regular people can sit in a room and say, here are the things on the far right that we're working on. Our organization's working on climate change theory. Your organization's working on monitoring and evaluation. And by condensing those into a glossary and organizing a shared glossary, then suddenly we have a giant data depot where searching information is as easy as, using a Google search, but it's not driven by commerce. So, and, through very simple AI and machine learning, we can come up with a knowledge graph where if you're working on a project and certain keywords are mentioned, you'll get a mention of other projects. So here are all of the other projects that have the same data sets that would match, the project that you're working on. So why we built that was because we realized we needed better tools. Big data doesn't cut it because regular people aren't very good at, semantic web, and they're not good at MySQL schemas, and but they are good at knowing how to just simply tag using natural language. So because networks thrive on our ability to traverse knowledge, we need to organize this kind of content in a way that is consistent. So I'm going to skip through some of this stuff, but basically I'll take you through just a couple of quick examples. Any organization that wants to enter into the Ethereum space can just have a simple profile. Any person on Reddit can have a simple profile, and through our libraries and schemas and some of the stuff we're building, they can use like 3box or any of the decentralized self-sovereign identity tools to identify just in natural language, here's who I am. Maybe I'm this business, Cura Persona, that I'm working with. They can identify what type of stuff they're looking for. I want to look for nutrition guidance. I want to get notes on regular checkup alerts. Here's my genetic profile. Everybody can identify their reality, and they can identify where they're at today, and then get an indication for some sort of an optimal state. And in this way, we can bring together the Ethereum social and knowledge graph, and any other industry. So that, and this really helps 1 million devs because it introduces what Kames calls the Ethereum experience architects. So this, this totem, which is something that Sense Collective has created, it's really just a JSON schema that allows you to organize your identity in a way that can be quantified and then paired against other people. And then when you have a group of say DAOs or a group of projects, a meta totem is just simply a large collection of organizations that have each used the same schema and ontology so that the search for insights and answers can happen between whatever groups decide to come together. So take, for example, Gitcoin. I know that Kames is working on some of the semantic web stuff. In the next Gitcoin grant round, we're going to be introducing some tools to actually demonstrate this, so that across all of the 100 projects that are participating in Gitcoin, we can have associative graphs and knowledge discovery that lets local groups and topic similar groups find each other and pool their money, so that we can do this cybernetic loop. We're able to communicate, command, collaborate, and control. It's basic complex adaptive systems kind of management. I'll skip through this. MetaGame is a perfect example of how this comes together. So our current Web3 combines all these stakeholders. We have modelers, gamers, taggers, subject matter experts. All we're missing is the shared language infrastructure for them to coordinate across these different ecosystems. I'll save all of this for when everyone's not exhausted, but we bring this to life through a variety of different games that sit very well into the MetaGame the design model, so that we can add in games with purpose into pretty much any platform. And this is the takeaway, and I promise there's just 2 more slides, and then I can open it up for questions. You can ask me what the heck I've been talking about. So what we did that really kicked all of this off for 350.org was to start creating something like this civic.json, which is a metadata standard for civic technology projects that allowed this type of takeaway that I've been describing, and hopefully this drives it all home. It's an API that allows a group of community projects, such as the OpenGov Hack Night in Chicago, or New York City's 311 campaigns, or the Sierra Club. Any project that's working on something similar can search GitHub. And by using the civic JSON schema, it looks like this. They can identify basically the needs of the organization, the categories that they participate in, and really anything that they want. And it is like front-loading a knowledge discovery ecosystem wherever you want to put it. So this schema will work in any of the Web3 platforms and ecosystems that we're working on. And I think it's a way that will help us get to 1 million developers, because in order to get there, we have to find each other, and we have to find the opportunities that best match the skills of our communities. So I'll leave it at that. I'll just go like this, and I'll end sharing. And that's my kind of way long flash talk. All right. You guys with me?
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let me turn.
I don't really have any questions on my end.
So I had a question. When you were talking specifically about the one node that was generating 90% of the traffic, and then they lost their leader pretty much, right? So they lost all of their flow because the person that was generating all the content and had all the knowledge silos left. So everyone lost the context and learning that they were kind of putting through. So how can we use the platform to share that local knowledge and kind of promote that learning without like, is it just like all the setup of the person doing the work? They've got
Yeah.
to like intentionally share it.
And it wasn't like she disappeared off the planet. You know, she was still reachable. It was more. It was twofold of a problem. The first problem was infrastructure and tools. They didn't have a database schema that allowed for all these different organizations to coordinate. So the data was just kind of stored in a disorganized fashion that only really made sense to her. And the content was there, but it's like going into any other coder's work, like, you know, without good documentation, it was a struggle to make sense of it. A lot of the intellectual capital was just maintained in her head and not committed into any formal structure. The other problem was that same problem expressed out in the wild. So she had a lot of amazing relationships, and she didn't take those relationships with her, but it's like, you know, after she graduated, to get her to go and on a one-on-one basis introduce those people, it was already too late. The best time to set up those kind of anchor tugboat captain knowledge-based thing is in real time. So it's really also just upfront understanding that it's not meant to be an app that does this. It's more of a schema and a protocol that really we're already starting to do. Between Aragon and DAO Stack and, you know, Moloch DAO, we have a couple of different approaches. They're slightly different. They have slightly different rules. I think the answer on a technical basis is deals with like the token taxonomy initiative, which is Ethereum Enterprise Alliance and Microsoft project, where they're really working to organize the taxonomy around like DAOs and tokens and NFTs to get consistency so that we can use shorthand. And you know, these projects can kind of just all be using the same shorthand so that when I look at your notes and I see, oh, you were using this type of NFT token, and I know which one you're talking about. I know if it was fungible or not, you know, like I know which switches you had turned on. So it's really documentation and relationship forging in real time as opposed to after the fact. Great question.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? If you guys got another minute in you, I can kick out a couple of kind of calls to action. Like because this was spontaneous, I don't really have a really well organized takeaway. But the main thing is that if you look at the Discord server action, and maybe your wrist or finger is sore from clicking between the 20 or 30 different Discord servers and Telegram channels, you know, we're really on the edge, and there's a lot of great bots already working, and there's a lot of similar people across a lot of these organizations that we're in. So, you know, we're a couple of months away, and during this next Gitcoin grant cycle, like we'll be introducing a grant, and in general, Gitcoin as just an organization is working on some knowledge management stuff, just thinking about the best way to categorize different projects and looking at how to label our projects. So finding some of the Ethereum projects that use good GitHub tags. I'm looking for good examples. And also, one of the things I'm looking for is feedback on, like, you know, we don't want to go too deep into the tagging side of things before we actually understand if people are going to use that. Like, so we're in a bit of a discovery phase where we'll be hosting some calls with 1 Million Devs and Sense Collective and Cura Persona on like modeling this out with some real world use cases. So if any of you have a project that and you'd like better knowledge management and better social graphing tools, just hit me up, and you know, we'll set up a chat, because we can include you in some of our field testing in the next month or two. Awesome.
Great, thank you.
I think it's Miller time.
Yeah,
I
thanks so
think
much.
we got one last talk that's gonna start right in pretty much 6 minutes.
All right. Well, I appreciate your attention at the end of this awesome day. Thanks, guys. And I'll put my handles and whatnot into the chat. So if you want to follow up with me. And I'll also drop the slides and a couple links into Telegram and all the other usual places. Awesome, guys.
Cool. Sounds good. Thanks, Johnny.
I'm going to keep hanging out for a few minutes if you guys want to chat amongst yourselves, and I'll just keep chilling here too as I catch my breath, and then I'm going to put my 2-year-old daughter to bed.
I'm going to head over to the House of DAOs. They've got the last one going.
Oh, great.
And then they've got like some after party.
Oh, yeah.
Pop over there.
Yep.
I'll see you guys over there.
Yep.
Awesome.